Hello, you beautiful souls. Welcome to another week of Awaken and Align podcast. I'm your host, Laura Chung, and Happy New Year. It is officially 2021, and I feel like, I saw a meme on TikTok and Instagram that said, nobody touch anything, nobody do anything. We're going to walk into 2021 slowly and quietly. And I feel like that's kind of how I've been I've been treating 2021, like not claiming anything, not like saying this is going to be my year as I did in 2020. I was like, this is going to be the year that's going to change my life. And in so many ways, it happened, but not in the way that I had thought. So I will get to that in a moment, but I did want to make an announcement that um, on January 19th, which Aquarius moves into, the sun moves into Aquarius, and I'm pretty sure that's why he picked this date. But my astrology teacher and friend, Nick Lasky, is going to be on, and I'm trying out a new setup here. I'm going to do a live Awaken and Align podcast taping with him, and I'm going to invite you to join to watch, and you can ask him questions, and we're going to have a Q&A at the end. But I did want to point out that the session is going to be about an hour and a half, and it's $33. But if you join our circles, our weekly virtual circles are $33 for the month, and you get to attend things like this, these live tapings, and you just have a community to talk about things with. Maybe your friends or your family don't necessarily have a spiritual understanding or are into this kind of stuff yet. So it's just another like enticing offer to join our weekly virtual circles. We talk about energy, we talk about the cosmos, all of the moon circles that I host and big astrological events are included in the weekly circles. I'm sorry. Today's circle, actually, we're talking about astrocartography, which is something that I'm super, super excited about. That's the astrology of certain locations and how they go with your own energy. So yeah, just super fun things. We laugh, we cry, we share, and I really, really want it to expand and grow in 2021, because I know that with the pandemic and everything that happened last year, community is something that really helped me get through those times. And I know a lot of you want to be a part of a community, but maybe you're like, what is that all about? So if you have any other questions about it and like what we actually do in these circles, always reach out to me, always DM me. I love seeing your DMs. I also love when you tell me which episodes you like, because it gives me a better idea of the kind of guest I can ask on, because trust me, my mind is like going all over the place with all of this Aquarian energy that I want to ask the most out of the box thinkers. And I'm always like, is it too soon to like bring this up? But now that I'm seeing what you're interested in, I recognize that it's never too soon. It's always an interesting conversation to have when you talk to somebody who maybe has different ideas, different perspectives, and can expand your mind in that way. So with that being said, I will link to the January 19th circle with Nick Lasky, and we're going to talk about the astrology of 2021 and all the important transits. Now, the reason why I'm so passionate about this and why I'm so excited about this is because I started my astrology journey in 2018. 2019 is when I got my first birth chart read, my natal chart. And for 37, it's actually kind of embarrassing now, but for 37 years, I thought I was a Pisces. It's because I was born on March 20th at 11:59 p.m., which is the last day of Pisces. And when I got my actually, this is actually a whole funny story in itself, but there's a local crystal shop here in Nyack, and the girl that works there, her name is Amanda. She started her own thing now, but she would listen to me talk and she'd be like, "You are not a Pisces girl. You are definitely an Aries." And I was like, "No way." Because you know, when you identify yourself as something for so long, it's just so hard to imagine you being anything else. And then she looked up my birth chart and she was like, "I told you, you are 0 degrees Aries. You're basically like the first, like, I think 15 minutes, which is like the first Aries, and Aries being the first sign of the entire zodiac. She's like, the only thing you have in Pisces is your Mercury." So I literally had this like a identity crisis. I was like, I literally have been thinking that I was a Pisces this whole time, telling everybody and their mom that I'm a Pisces. And in Vedic astrology and sidereal astrology, I am a Pisces because it's always the sign before, and a Scorpio rising. But in Western astrology, it just like really kind of like blew my mind. I was like, oh my gosh. So I got my first natal chart reading in 2019, and I started learning about the energies and the archetypes and the Greek mythology, and that astrology has been an art form um, since like the beginning of time. And a lot of these ancient cultures use some kind of cosmovision, right? Like right now, I'm really interested in the Mayan cosmovision because I am a part of the Cacao circles. You know, the Koreans, like it's been traditionally like a Buddhist culture, but they go by the lunar calendar similar to the Chinese zodiac. And that is its own like cosmovision. And I'm beginning to understand that each culture has their own astrology, cosmovision system based on the planetary movements. It's actually like when you look deeper and deeper into the meaning of everything, everything has a planetary cosmic meaning. Especially in the Korean culture, we go by the lunar calendar. My parents actually know their lunar birthdays. They're not as, my mother knows her solar return birthday, but my father not so much. Like he doesn't really know his birth time, and so I can't look up his chart. My grandma, in like the solar system, she would be an Aquarius, but she could be a Capricorn. So it's like even within my own culture, there is this heavy emphasis on the moon and the moon cycles. And you know, the Chinese zodiac, we all go by an animal. I'm a water dog, and I just found out that I am a water dog because I was born in 1982. And when you combine all the systems and you look at the patterns, it's all about cycles. It's all about patterns and cycles and paying attention to them. So when I finally started like giving myself the permission to learn astrology, and when I say that, I mean that because, you know, growing up Christian, it was seen as like a witchcraft or some kind of evil system, but it's really not. It's just talking about cycles and energy. So when I started learning about it and recognizing the patterns and recognizing at different points in my life that it was like the same lessons, just in different forms and through different people, I was like, oh my gosh. Oh my, it was like, oh, that's why I love this system. And that's why I started learning it full time last year in 2020. And that's kind of how I met Nick Lasky through the Cacao Circle. I met Florencia, who she is studying the Mayan Cosmovision. And I just started putting all the pieces together with all of the other systems that I've learned, like Reiki and Kundalini Yoga, and my just from my own experiences of everything that I've read, that now I feel like I have a better understanding of how this universe works. I'm not saying I know everything because I don't, and I don't want to know everything, but I have been noticing patterns and cycles. And as you know, life is not linear, life is not beginning and an ending. And in a lot of these cosmovisions, it's represented by circles, by cycles. The moon is a cyclical thing, and it moves the oceans, it moves the women's, the female, cycles, our own menstruation. So it is like, and I forget what text this is from or who said this, but as above, so below, as within, so without. Everything is interconnected. The plants, the animals, the seasons, it is all part of this one, right? And that's what yoga actually means. Yoga is yog, which means unity. It is like this encompassing of everything being everything and nothing at the same time. Okay, so I am fully caffeinated. So if I go off in tangents or if I am speaking fast, it's only because I have been getting messages from spirit and downloads since last night in my dream. As I was dozing off, I was writing notes in my phone because all of these messages and things that they wanted me to say have been coming through. So if I pause, it's because I need to like get all of the thoughts and the things that I want to say in one cohesive statement. And if you're following along on YouTube, which I started posting these on YouTube, you're noticing how much I'm moving my hands. And I don't know if this is a New Yorker thing, because I notice that New Yorkers speak a lot with their hands, or it's because I really need to um, pull myself together. Take a deep breath, Laura. Okay. So I wanted to do this first episode of 2021 because I did this last year. It was an episode called All of the Lessons of 2019 and My Intentions for 2020. I haven't listened to that episode before I started this, but I remember so clearly 2019 going into 2020. And my sister and I went to Kripalu in upstate New York. It's this yoga center. And I decided that I wanted to like eat clean and vegan and not drink. And I really wanted to have a very hermit-like New Year's to set my intentions and to start a new, start 2020 on a fresh new start. And I remember even the Instagram post that I posted, it was me outside in the snow with Ganesh. And I said, this is like, how I'm moving into 2020 with removing the obstacles. And I just remember feeling so optimistic and feeling like 2020 is going to be my motherfucking year. It's the 4-year numerology. I'm going to build my foundations. I'm going to kill it, right? And I had this, I've said this many times on this podcast before. I had this huge calendar and a vision board and it used to be right here. So I need to like fill this space with something else of all the places I was going to go, all the things I was going to do, all the, everything, right? And by April, I literally tore that shit down and I was like, okay, this is clearly a message that I'm actually not in control of anything. I don't know anything. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what pandemics or natural disasters or anything is going to happen. So like, what is actually the point of planning? And just to refresh your memory, not that I have to, because 2020 was traumatic for all of us, but we began the year with the fires in Australia, the little koala bears burning. And then in January of last year, I remember it was the end of January, was Kobe Bryant passing away. And then in February, it was like, news of the coronavirus. Oh, I hate saying that word, Rona, started, seeping into the US. And I remember this because my parents were going on a cruise to Hawaii. And I was like, do you really want to go? Is that such a good idea? But they went anyway. And then March was when things, shit hit the fan. And I remember these, events happening one after the other, right? I think we all remember that. And I remember thinking like, oh, wow, okay, all the stuff that I was feeling from, and if you go back to the episodes in the fall of 2019, me and my guests, like we have an inkling of something big coming in 2020. Personally, I thought it was a terrorist attack, and I actually wrote that down in my journal that I felt all these weird vibes. I wrote actually down, I feel like there's going to be another terrorist attack happening in New York City. Little did I know that it was going to be a virus. Um, and so when those things started coming up and everything was being, because we were all home and because we were all resting and not doing what we're normally doing, like we were disrupted from our normal day-to-day activities and finally forced to sit down and look with our eyes, 2020 vision, that you recognized that everything that was building up all of our structures and the things that you thought were real and true were not. And that was the huge conjunction between Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter in Capricorn, because Jupiter is the planet of expansion. And I always talk about Jupiter in its highest expression, like opportunity, luck, and prosperity. But the other end of that is expanding things that you don't want expanded, like a virus. Saturn being the planet of responsibility, of duty, of growing the fuck up, being in its home sign in Capricorn, which is all about, like structure and our elders and hard work. And then Pluto being the planet of transformation, death, and rebirth. And Pluto is, the energy of Pluto to me is really bringing things up to the surface that are not pretty for you to finally recognize something. Finally, like you're reckoning, right? Like the tower moment. I kept using that. I have my new Mystic Mondays Tarot here. I'm going to have Grace on in a couple weeks. Sorry to get off course here. But I kept mentioning the tower archetype last year of just everything breaking down that you thought was real and true, but in fact was not at all and might have actually shocked you, right? Some people really got into conspiracy theories. Some people really got into the other way of being more conservative. Whatever it was for you, you wanted to find some kind of meaning in what was happening. Probably why a lot of people got into spirituality, got into like astrology, because you wanted to find meaning in all this like chaos and disruption. So I actually found the Tower card. If you don't know Mystic Mondays, it's created by Grace Duong, this beautiful creator. And she makes these beautiful tarot cards. And like I said, I'm interviewing her in a couple weeks, so look out for that. But this really represented to me, I know traditionally, 2020 was represented by the Emperor card, but for me, this was the card, the Tower, for me anyway, because all of the structures in our society, like education, healthcare, the government, right? The postal service, even, and I'm talking more about the United States because that's my point of view, but even wherever you are, I know we have a lot of listeners from all over the world. I'm sure, like, I've seen protests all over the world this year because of, Rona being a global pandemic. So it almost is like so painful, but it needed to happen because everything that was built upon this tower, these large towers, was a lie, was not out of the best intentions. It was based on greed, it was based on ego, it was based on not fulfilling the highest good of all involved, including our Mother Earth. So, this was a reckoning year for a lot of us, for a lot of people who clung to this vision of what life is really supposed to be about. And I had this in 2018 when I went through my spiritual awakening, when I realized that everything that I had put all of my hopes and dreams into, all of my work, all of my efforts, my energy was not real. And let me explain. Because what I'm gonna simplify everything. I'm gonna simplify everything so that it's so understandable for you, because what really, really annoys me about some of these spiritual teachers, if I could speak frankly here, is all of these like complex vocabulary words that I actually have to Google sometimes because I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? And you know, I want to be careful of how I say things, because my intention always is to come from a place of love, of inclusion, of inspiration, and not from a place of fear mongering and making you feel scared, right? Even in my Reiki trainings, I tell my students about dark energies, not to scare them, but to tell them, like, now you have the tools to, you know, protect yourself. And it's not that, it's not for your highest good to just ignore things like this, right? So at the same time, I'm constantly working on my own ego, my spiritual ego, because I know I've come from that place many times. I'm human. That we are all on our own journey. We are all on our own awakening at different stages. And just because I figured this out, and I'm still figuring it out, I don't have anything figured out, by the way, earlier than some people, does not make me better than anybody. And just because we've awakened to something and there's still people that aren't and will maybe never in their lifetime, does not make us better or worse. I just wanted to say that first before I continue on, because what also annoys me about, and fucking irritates me, to be honest with you, about some of these teachers is this idea that like you're damaged and you need to be healed and that you're fucked and you need this teacher to help you, and this energy of like you can't figure it out on your own, which you totally can. We all need teachers to guide us. I have many teachers. Many of them are younger than me. But at the same time, it's my responsibility to do this work for myself. So what is an awakening? I want to start there. What are we waking up to? What were we sleeping for? Right? I'm sure you probably asked yourself this a lot. And if you're listening to this, I'm sure you've gone through some kind of awakening moment where you recognize, like, this is not all there is to be. Otherwise, why would you be interested in this podcast or this community, right? So my awakening moment happened so slowly, but the biggest moment I would have to say was in 2018. When I had a little acid trip in Byron Bay, Australia, March 2018. I will never forget that trip. And the first thing that, first of all, if you haven't heard this story, I don't even remember what podcast episode I talked about this, but to like sum it all up really quickly, I never done any drugs in my entire life besides weed. I don't know why that took me so long to remember that. I've never done cocaine. I've never done Molly. I've never done ecstasy, none of that stuff ever in my entire life. And thank goodness, because I have such an addictive personality. Geez, my poison of choice or my vice was always alcohol. So I go on this trip with my two friends who lived in Australia at that time. And it was a beautiful, beautiful place. We were traveling around Australia for a month in a van, and we would park our vans by the beach and we'd go surfing and go on the beach every day. It was just like a magical trip. But I was so fucking lost. I had just quit my job a year before that. I was I thought I wanted to be a travel blogger. I was getting opportunities, and it wasn't like, that wasn't going well. It just didn't feel that just still did not feel in alignment with whatever I was trying to resonate with. Okay. So I'm just like setting the stage up for you with my mindset. My mindset was like, I feel lost. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I would have these like momentary breakdowns of like, what am I doing with my life? So when my friend, who I trust them with my life, offered me this acid, I was like, and the way that he described it was not like taking cocaine or anything like that. It's non-addictive. It's a psychoactive, which will help you connect to whatever it is that you're trying to connect to. And I was like, how harmful could this be, right? So I take it, and immediately, I'm telling you, within an hour, I was on the roof of my van having a fucking like download from source, the stars, the cosmos. I don't even know what time that happened. I'm assuming it happened at 11 p.m. I did not go to sleep. I spent the entire night to the morning till sunrise on the roof of my van, staring at the stars, getting these, like, I don't know what you would call it, a celestial star galactic download. Almost like that moment was the moment that my soul had been waiting for, something to take my consciousness to a different dimension, different level, that I needed to detach from my physical reality, all the physical things that I was looking at, to a different dimension. Now, I want to say this very clearly. Do not take these substances just because I'm talking about them. Like, this is a journey everyone needs to take on their own, with the right people, with the right guide. And I'm pretty sure most of these substances are illegal in the United States. So before you come at me, I just want to say that these are these are powerful substances. So I just want to put that out there, that they also need time for integration and also your own spiritual work. It's not a thing for escapism. Okay, I just want to put that out there. So the first thing that the download that I got is, you are a part of the stars, you are a part of everything, you're a part of the ocean. And it was almost like that scene in Avatar where everything was glowing, and everything was literally glowing. Like, I could feel the ocean waves on my body. I could feel the stars on me. I could feel the plants. I could hear the plants. I could hear them talking to me. And they were all telling me the same thing. We are all one. We are all one. Okay. I was like, whatever that means, that seems nice. But now looking back and feeling that feeling I felt on top of that van, it was feeling one with life force, source, God, creator, universe, whatever you want to call, whatever name you want to call it, that greater force of energy that every religion, every spiritual teaching, everybody talks about, was that feeling, that unconditional love feeling, that you are just a part of everything, and that you are greater than your physical body and your surroundings. And that feeling was so awakening to me that it literally shifted the course of my entire life. Because after that, okay, maybe I forgot about that feeling for a while, but after that is when I discovered Reiki, which is the same exact thing. You're just tapping into life force energy, the same energy force. Then after that, I went to yoga to learn yoga, Kundalini yoga in India. And that is the whole system of yoga. It is. That's what yoga is. Yoga is unity consciousness. It is feeling back into source. Why do we meditate? To connect with source. What is Reiki? We're just channels for this life force energy. Okay, so then after Kundalini yoga, it was like all these other systems that I started learning about, astrology, which is just, again, as above, so below, tarot, however you say it. It's divination. It's just tapping into that life force energy that is a part of us. We are just extensions of this energy. And we tap into that to help guide us in our physical reality, in our physical incarnation. So the biggest lesson I learned from 2020, actually, and this 2020 vision, because I started saying that in 2019, and the awakening that so many people had in 2020 is that we are a part of a bigger life force energy. We are all a part of one, we are a part of each other. And that is a really hard concept to wrap your head around, because it just seems so grand and so like hard for my human mind to fully grasp and understand. It's still to this day, like, to think that I am one with people that I don't agree with, who I think are evil, is really hard for me still. Like, I'm still human, right? But that is my understanding now of everything. Is the biggest thing I learned from 2020 is that we are part of a bigger cycle, part of many different cycles, one being our own cycle of life. And also, we live in a multiverse, we are multidimensional, and us ourselves live in multiple realities, as you've learned in episode 111 with Roberta Vomaro. And to explain, to fully understand and know everything is impossible. So that right away lets us off the hook, that we don't need to know anything. We don't need to know any of this. And that makes me feel better, because the only thing that is true, that makes me actually feel really comforted after the year of 2020, and the fact that everything that I had planned, everything that I wanted, all the things on my vision board didn't happen in the way that it was going to, that actually gives me so much comfort, actually, in a very strange way that I can say now in hindsight, because it leaves me off the hook for having to know how everything's going to happen, because the how is not up to me. The what and the why I'm doing it, the intention of everything, and the what, like, what is it that I really want to do in this lifetime? And I always ask that of this community, like, what does your heart desire? What the heck do you like? And if you can't remember that, if you really don't know that, because sometimes I get that answer from people, then your job right now is to figure that out. Your job is to connect to that space within yourself and ask these questions. So that is the awakening. The awakening is understanding that we are part of a bigger life force energy. The dark night of the soul is recognizing that you are responsible for everything. And this is why my dark night of the soul lasted for way too long than it should have, because I didn't want to take responsibility for it, because I was still in that victim mindset. Now, again, I want to say this with care and empathy and compassion. I recognize, I mean, I'm this is the part of me that I kind of maybe I'm not as vocal about it anymore, because I have a different take on it, like politics and government and being an activist. I decided to act upon it in my own way, which is helping the individual person awaken to this concept, what I'm speaking about now, so that each individual person takes responsibility for changing their own lives and being responsible for their own vibration. I know I'm not going to change anybody. I know I'm not going to change this world, because the change needs to start with myself. So I do recognize all of the oppression and everything that's happened in this world so far. Of course, yes. And I recognize that we should speak about them and that we should stand up for them and that we should advocate for voices and people whose voices have been oppressed for many, many years. This is not what I'm talking about. I am talking about being a victim to your circumstances and saying to yourself and deciding that I'm not going to allow that to be my identity. I'm not going to allow that to dictate my future. For example, this is something that I've been sharing since the beginning of the podcast about my quote unquote daddy issues. And last year, I finally decided that I'm not going to be that. I'm not going to use that as an excuse for not allowing love in, for not allowing me to feel love and to be in a relationship, because ultimately those experiences that I went through many years ago don't define who I am today. So I think that's also why I don't really talk about that as much anymore, because it was a part of my reality for a really long time. And then for many years, I was healing from that. I sorted that out and did my forgiveness journey. And I did speak a lot about that in the beginning of my podcast, but now I'm detaching myself from that identity. I don't want to be this damaged person, this person that has issues and sees men and relationships in a certain way. Like, I want to shift my reality. And I highly recommend you listening to episode 111, because I just decided, like, that's just not who I am anymore. And so I really don't want to focus on the past, and I don't want to bring more attention and electricity to those memories, because I am literally deciding I want to call in a person who is my soul's match, not from my ego, but from my soul. And also, I want to like shift my timeline to the one for my highest expression, not from my past. So that takes responsibility. And that's the second part of the lesson that I learned from 2020 is each of us has to take responsibility for our own journey, for our own healing, and we can't blame other people. As much fun as it was to like use that as like a joke and you know, self-deprecating joke of like, oh, I'm so damaged, I have daddy issues, and joking about my Asian immigrant parents with their scarcity mindset, and just trying to think of other examples that I've used in my past. I have to ultimately take responsibility for my future. Like, nobody's going to save me. No man, no God. I mean, okay, God is helping me co-creating, but no like savior, like this president or savior mentality. Nobody is going to come help me except for myself. I need to help I need to help myself. And that's why I believe 2020 was the emperor energy, because we all had to have that inner authority. And Mars being in retrograde in Aries for 6 months, I believe it's retrograde for 6 months since June, that energy is very much like taking inward action, taking inner authority for yourself, taking responsibility for yourself, getting out of that like, oh, woe is me, this happened to me, and everyone is making fun of me, and everyone is judging me, and my whatever. Okay, no. You have to motherfucking decide now that that is not you, that's not your identity. You're not going to allow other people's opinions of you like slow you down from where you want to be. And I'm not going to go into the whole story, but just on Sunday, I got super triggered by a story that my mom was telling me, and I blew up because that is my pattern. That's my loop. Is I hear something, I get boiled up inside, and I react right away. But it was good because I needed to get that anger out. Being angry is not a bad thing, but the core signature of why that made me upset was feeling unworthy, feeling not good enough. That is like when you strip everything down of why you get upset, it's always somewhere along those lines. Like you feel attacked because you don't feel worthy or you don't feel good enough or something like that. Some form of the same thing. So what I recognized in that moment too, which I can again say in hindsight, but in the moment when you're so heated, you lose all of the lessons that you've learned. You're just like, oh my God, and this happens so quickly. And you forget, I saw red. I literally saw red. And like, I felt like my mom said, I was like breathing fire. It was like in that 1 second, it was like trigger, Laura's response, and like explosion. And all of the like spiritual lessons and tools that I've learned in all this time, like completely went out the window. But I'm human still. So what that showed me too is that of this idea of codependency versus interdependency. Interdependency very much aligned with this Aquarian energy of the collective, of friendship, of we need each other. We need each other. It is like we don't live on islands by ourselves. Like we need each other to show us parts of ourselves that are still unhealed, that still need attention. So if my mom had not said that and I had not reacted in that way, I wouldn't have known that there was still an itsy wincy part of me that felt unworthy. And what was that about me? I have to constantly look inward because it's never about, first of all, it wasn't about my mom. She was just the messenger. It wasn't about the person that said the thing about me. It's always about me. Why did I feel unworthy, right? Like I had been doing all of this work in 2020. Where was that still coming from, right? Oh, right. Like I feel separated from source. I feel like I'm identifying with my ego, that I'm like, just this like whatever X, Y, and Z identification I had at that moment. Codependency is when, because I feel unworthy, because I don't feel good enough, because I feel like I can't do any of this stuff, I can't build my dreams on my own, that I need to find external validation. I need to find a man to save me. I need to find likes on Instagram to validate my feelings. And I need to find all this external things to fill that. But if you know anything about anything of this spiritual journey, you know that that is so temporary. Those things come and go. And when those external things aren't there, when the amount of likes you want isn't there, when that man isn't there or woman or whoever, when the external validations that you need to fill that unworthiness void, and I'm just giving this as an example, then what are you left with? You still feel empty inside because the one thing that you need to fill is within yourself. Everything goes back inward. So that's what I mean by, and I've been saying this a lot in my TikTok, codependency versus interdependency. And when you finally get that, you realize that everything begins and ends with you. You have to be responsible for yourself. And that is a dark night of the soul moment, because when you start recognizing that and you can't blame anybody and you can't put the onus on anybody else, the onus is on you, and you're like, fuck, I actually have to do something about it. It is like a dark night of the soul moment, I have to say. And when you recognize that everything is on you and you actually have to take action on that, you have to literally get off your ass and do something about it, which I know not a lot of people want to do. So in a nutshell, that is what awakening and the dark night of the soul means to me personally. And again, we are talking about energy and resonance. If what I say to you and my words land on you with anything, even beyond this podcast, if anything I say does not resonate within your being, just take whatever I say and let it slide off of you. Whatever does resonate, keep it. Because I am only speaking from my own personal experience, which is going to be biased because I am a soul, but I am embodying certain experiences and cultural identities and societal identities that are unique to me. So, it's not for everybody. So I did want to show you this because I did find this. So the tower was last year, right? This was like, oh my God, everything's coming down. And now this is the star. And this has been a symbol I've been getting all of last year. The star comes right after the tower. This is 16 and this is 17. I've been seeing the number 17 everywhere. And this is represented by Aquarius, the star in tarot. The star in tarot is all about healing. It's all about inspiration and hope. And this is the energy that I really feel of 2021. It is the Aquarian energy, which is about healing through community, healing through sharing our experiences through technology. I mean, I was able to have people from all over the world join my workshops, and what I noticed was a common theme, like everybody feels alone. Nobody wants to go through this by themselves. Each of us are literally asking ourselves, what am I doing? What the fuck is happening? And am I doing the right thing? That's all anybody wants to know at any given time. Anybody who ever asks me for Reiki or is my student or asks me for reading, the question is always, am I on the right path? That is what we all want to know. And the answer is yes, we are always on the path. Sure, we get lost along the way and we get thrown off a little bit, but we are always on the right path. We are always on the course. All that we need is a willingness to see things in a different way. And what I was sharing a lot about last year when the nodes changed, the eclipse points with Sagittarius and Gemini, is an invitation for us to see things in a different way, to break down our belief systems, asking ourselves, where did I learn this? Is it true? And there's only one thing that is true. And you can strip away everything else. The one truth is that we are all a part of source energy. We are all extensions of source energy. That is the one truth. And sometimes when people say things like, we are just unconditional love, or it really fucking irritates me, to be honest with you, because I don't feel that all the time. Sometimes it takes me like all fucking day to remind myself of this, to feel that. But that is why we meditate. That is why we take moments of silence. That is why we walk in nature. That is why we have community. That is why we sing songs and dance, is to remind ourselves that this is all that there is that's true, that we're a part of this loving life force energy, and everything outside of that is just distraction and nonsense. So I don't know what the fuck is going on. Like, yes, I get downloads, I believe in certain things, I read conspiracy theories, I am tapped into multiple lines of frequencies. And some things I take with me and some things I leave behind. But what I always come back to is, does this resonate with me in this moment? Does this feel good in my body in this moment? Is this helping me at all? And if it doesn't, I leave it. And if it does, I bring it with me. That's it. Trusting my intuition, trusting my truth, knowing that the only thing that is true is this. And I'm going to keep repeating it to remind you, because that's the only thing that really matters here. So, and I know I said this before, but to sum it up, yeah, the biggest lesson I learned in 2020 is this concept of the unity consciousness, of we're all a part of this larger life force energy, and that 2021, my intention is to help people awaken to this fact, and helping people realize that we each have a unique frequency, a unique tone, a unique notes or whatever you want to call it. Frequency is expressed in colors, in music, in tone, in vibration, in so many things in nature, in the natural world, sacred geometry, crystals, and only you can express it in your own way. And you are only responsible for your own frequency and how that collectively relates to the collective frequency of our collective consciousness. Okay, we cannot change other people. We learn this in psychology too. You can only inspire people by being an embodiment of that change yourself. So I know with all of this like Aquarian technology, air element shit coming through, which is moving fast, there's a lot of ideas, a lot of chatter, a lot, and I just keep thinking of Mercury, right? And all of our personal planets are shifting signs this week. So again, we're having a huge energetic shift now where they're all going to soon be moving into Aquarius in the next month. And we're going through another huge energetic shift of like all of this fast paced information coming in. And you're really going to have to discern what is true for you and what is the truth. So I really, really encourage you. This is not to make you feel like you have to do something, but if you feel like you need a community to like support you in this journey, that's what our circles are for. That's why we're here for each other. We heal through community. So yeah, that is my intention for 2021, is to support everybody, to help people remember, to help them in their awakening, because ultimately I realized we're only going to change the planet within ourselves first. So with that being said, Happy New Year, and I'm so excited for what's to unfold in 2021. No expectations, just intentions and the feeling that we want to embody. And I just wish you all the luck, opportunity, abundance, health, wealth, whatever your heart desires, and so many blessings to you.